What up, what up, what up? This is Mike the Philosopher here with another one with Sean B. And today's topic is about the marvelous, the fantastic, the exceptional MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. All right, it is his birthday, and we thought we'd talk about him and his impact on the culture, society. Um, one thing I noticed is that even people who did not agree with MLK when he was alive, I find a lot of these people quoting a lot of his quotes and quoting a lot of his sayings and his ideologies. It's almost like he's more embraced now than he was when he was alive. What do you think about that, Sean?
You said you think he's embraced more now that he's
now that he's passed than he was when he was alive.
I don't know. He did his mission. You know what I mean? And so you can tell he was embraced because he was impactful. And it's like when you're an impactful person, of course, when you go, you know your name gonna ring bells because it's like, oh, he did all of that. Like, why do all of these people, feel a way about him being gone? You know what I mean? And so it's like that's what you call being impactful. And so it's like, I don't know. I couldn't necessarily say get more love gone than when they were alive, but
yeah. I think he was. He passed away when he was only 39 years old. 39. Very young. And he did make a huge impact. Do you think that he said he had a dream, right? Do you think we're closer to the MLK dream now than we was when he was alive?
I think we wait for. Well, to be honest, we do have integrated schools. We do have, you know what I mean, that whole there's a level of equality that we do have. So I guess you could say we did accomplish his dream in that sense when it comes to reality. But as far as how the black household looks, I don't think that he would be proud of what he currently sees. You know, in certain aspects, I couldn't say as a whole because there's a lot of, for as much positive as it is, it's almost equally as much negative.
Yeah. I would say that I guess we have come a little closer to what his dream was. But if I were to guess, I would say that he probably would be dreaming a different dream right now if he were alive. He would be, his dreams would probably be a lot more economic. Let me ask you, if MLK was alive today, what do you think the first things he would have been working on in this culture? What do you think he would be working on?
I think he would probably most definitely be a part of the NAACP.
Okay.
I feel ashamed to say, but I'm not exactly familiar with their work in current times. I'm not familiar with what they've been up to lately. So it's like, I think he would definitely be a part of that organization that when they would be doing whatever it is that they do.
Well, to be honest, I feel like that organization has been infiltrated. There have been some people in there who I feel like try to make it pretty much as irrelevant as it can be. So I think there are some what I would consider some moles in the NAACP. You know, it survives by name alone, but you know, what there were things like when George Floyd, I didn't hear much from the NAACP. When there are tragic things that happen, I don't hear anything about them. Like you said to say you don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying that they're not doing anything, but I'm saying what they're doing is not visible to the people, which makes them pretty irrelevant at this point.
Yeah.
You know, do you think that he would have been working on reparations?
I mean, yeah, I would think that with that kind of movement, I think we probably, I don't know if we would have gotten it by now, but I think they probably would have definitely had more conversations about it. I feel like, I
Did
don't
you
know.
know he was working on reparations before he passed?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was working on it. They say that's the reason why they did what they did to him, because he was working on reparations.
And it's like anytime they discuss restoring the people, I should say the people who were affected by slavery, the African American community, that conversation always gets shut down. And anybody who has anybody who has a following who becomes a leader, like he did to that regard, somehow ends up, passing
Yeah, yeah,
at a age. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's today's time. I mean, even in the music culture, acting culture, it's like anybody who's trying to make real positive strides to restore this culture gets shut down.
yeah, yeah. And it's done uh covertly too. It's done very covert,
Right.
you know. Um it's done in ways that to where you can't pinpoint the real source, but yeah, but anyway, I think that he would have still been I don't know, I think reparations probably would have been done by now if he was still alive, because he was working on it before he passed.
I
So
mean, he was having conversations, don't mean they would have been willing to give the money.
do you
And it's
think
funny because during the pandemic, we saw that it's clearly an ability to provide this money, right? But it's just about the want to come up off it. And it's like, because of what it will do to that community, to restore that community means what, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I guess the situation would be not something that they want, I guess.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
done it. They've given reparations to other communities.
yeah.
We see casinos, and we see, you know, we, we can go down the list more or less.
Mhm.
But
Do you think that even though Barack Obama was, some would consider the first black president, do you think MLK would have been if he was still alive?
yeah, I mean, if he chose to run, I think he definitely would have probably won the vote of the black community for sure.
So he would have ended up being the first black president if he was alive still.
Yeah.
And he had a good relationship with, well, I want to say a good relationship, but yeah, understanding with, I believe, Lyndon Johnson and other presidents before him. He was a well-known public figure, so all the presidents really knew who he was, and he had strong influence. um what we're not going to make this video very long, but what I want to know is, with MLK, what do you wish you could have seen in your lifetime? What if he was still alive, what is the one thing you wish he would have changed that actually exists now?
So if his movement continued, I think that we would have had a very different culture than what we have today. I think uh, this gangster rap music and destruction of sales, I don't think that would exist. I think we would be more upstanding. Not to say that we aren't, because again, there's a lot of accomplishments within the black community in today's time. But stuff like that, like I'm saying, I just don't think would exist because he held his direct community to a higher standard. You know,
Right.
to think and be peaceful as opposed to choosing violence. That's self control. And I'm sad to say, but in gangster rap music, they don't promote self control. They promote violence and going down the wrong path as opposed to doing the right thing. So, like I'm saying, if his movement still continue, I think we would have a very different America, right? I think a lot of the what if questions on the science side and the I don't know, just life, right? I think more so on the science side, right? I think we will be farther as humans.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
talk about like flying cars and stuff like just crazy imagination type stuff. But when you think about it, when great minds and different cultures come together and work together, we can accomplish great things. But it's only when we have that separation and we think we different and we're not working together, less progress is being made. You may make a stride over here, I might make a stride over here, but what if we put those two strides together? And that's, to me, in my opinion, something America has still not been able to come to that acceptance with. Like, I mean, we here now, we went through all we went through. We can forget the past, or we can forgive the past. I ain't gonna say we're gonna forget. We can forgive the past and work together moving forward if they would just so happen to make it that way. But I think things are the way they are for a reason, and we kind of got the answer on what they wish it to be.
Yeah, yeah. I think that if he was still alive, I think police reform would be different. I think that reparations would have been paid already to the descendants. If he was alive, I think that more opportunities. I think he would have been ended up being the first president, first black president, rather. They say there are other presidents before, Barack Obama that were black, and but I'm not going into all of that. I'm just sticking with what we know as black today, whatever. And I think he would have been the first one. Like I said, police reform, reparations will be different. I think we will have our own party, political party. It wouldn't be Republican, wouldn't be Democratic. It would be, the black delegation or something like that, political party. And we would move accordingly um, to our own political views, our own political beliefs, and we would vote in our interest. You know, I think that the churches will be different. The black churches will be a lot different. I think that in all retrospect, I don't see how MLK could have. I don't see how he could have survived for very long traveling that road. I don't see how he could have lived that long because people don't like that much change in their life. So I don't. The road he was on was a courageous and very, just like Malcolm X, very courageous and short-lived path, but impactful nonetheless. But I don't. It's hard for me to see him surviving for that long without being a sellout at some point. We've seen some of our other leaders who were very impactful that ended up, I don't know, I don't want to say selling out, but they became pretty irrelevant in my opinion. Like the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and people like that, even Barack Obama to some people, you know, and it's hard to see him still being the iconic figure he is without, selling out to the hold on man, because you got a lot of static. Without him selling out to the establishment, so to speak, in some kind of way, because a lot of our leaders have went that way. And I'm not, look, I still got respect for all of those leaders who led us at one point and you know showed us that side of them. But it seems like money corrupts. I would have loved it to see him not be I would have loved to see him continue doing what he was doing and not sell out to the establishment, if that makes any sense, because I feel like with our people, you can always get us with money. You can always buy us out some kind of way, and that's assuming that he was still alive. Like he would have had to go one way or the other. He would have had to pass on, which is what he did, or he would have had to sell out, which is what some of the other ones did. So it's hard to see him being as productive as he could have been without going one of those routes. But I do think a lot of things would have changed. Political party, schools, I think, would have been affected. Churches, I think that reparations would have been taken care of. I think police, reform would have happened. I think a lot of things would have happened if he was still with us today. But since he's not, happy birthday. Rest in peace to the king. BMR loves you and respects you, along with Coretta Scott King. May she rest. And we love and respect her too. And that's how it is. And we just want to say happy birthday to Martin Luther King Jr. Fun fact for the day: Martin Luther King Jr. was not born Martin Luther King. He was born Michael King. And he was born, his first name was Michael. What happened is his father was also named Michael King, but Michael went to see Martin Luther, who was a I don't want to say a pastor or he was a famous figure head in the religious circle. I'll say that he admired Martin Luther, so he changed his name from Michael King Sr. to Martin Luther King Sr. and his son Michael King Jr. was already born. He was about 4 or 5 years old. He changed his son's name to Martin Luther King Jr. So the father changed his name, and he changed his son's name to be Martin Luther instead of Michael King. Just a fun fact for those who watching the video. Hit the like, share, and subscribe on this one if you liked it. We'll catch you in the next one. Happy birthday to MLK, and peace.
To me is that for a long time you've been a national leader of your people. You're one of the most influential figures, I suppose, in the United States, and yet you're only 32 years old. Now, did you have any special training for this kind of leadership when you were a boy?
No, I really didn't. I had no idea that I would be catapulted into a position of leadership in the civil rights struggle in the United States. I went through the discipline of early elementary school education and then high school and college and theological training, but never did I realize that I would be in a situation where I would be a leader in what is now known as the civil rights struggle of the United States.
What sort of home did you have as a child? Was it a strict home, for instance?
Well, I guess it was relatively strict. Coming up in a minister's home, I faced the discipline that you would face in a very fervent religious background. However, I don't think it was over strict to the point that I developed any personality conflicts as a result of my early childhood, but it was strict enough, and I think it was strict enough for me to develop certain disciplinary principles as I came up.
Well, now, when you were still a small boy, before those decisions came along, were you conscious of color discrimination in your own life?
Yes, I became conscious of color discrimination at a relatively early age. I think the first time was when I was about 6 years old. I had some friends who lived, well, they didn't live in front of us, but their parents had a store, two white boys, and they were my inseparable playmates for the early years of my life. And I remember when I was about 6, something started happening. When I went over to play with them, they always made excuses. They could not play, they were busy. And finally, I went to my mother with this problem, and she tried to explain to me in the best way she could explain to a child 6 years old. And this was really the first time that I became aware of the racial differences, or rather the racial problem. She made it clear to me that this system had a long history, dating back to the time of slavery. She tried to explain the meaning of the system of segregation. But the thing I would always remember is that in the midst of her explanation, she always said to me, "You must never feel that you are less than anybody else. You must always feel that you are somebody, and you must feel that you are as good as anybody else." And of course, this came up with me in spite of the fact that I still confronted the system of segregation every day.